If you are a high professional and you are not seen as a shareholder, then unfortunately you have to wait for us to take office. But before that happens, we must fight for your space. Fight for your space. And that we will do. We'll assist. So you had me mention about career foreign service officers. A lot of them are depressed because somebody had to satisfy their cronies. It's very attractive to be appointed ambassador to the Netherlands, the seat of very important institutions like ICC and also CMD, yeah, very important. So you go there, you're paid foreign service allowance, your children go to school anywhere. So people get, I wouldn't say bribed, they are given tokenism. And that is terrible. I would advise that even as we wait to do the necessary important things to make this country professional in terms of our public service, one time, France under Charles de Gaulle, I think it was kept going. When there was a revolution after that, French Revolution, it was a French civil service that held that country together. So if you make it a seat for demagoguery, I mean for people who are not professional, people who are, unapigiwa simu unaambia patia huyo contract. Imendile unapeana bila kufuata even procurement rules, then you are messing up your own country. Where do we stand diplomatically as a country? You know, there are basic guiding principles in diplomacy. Kenya is a founding member, for example, of the non-aligned movement. These people, I'm quite sure, have no idea. They've never heard of the Bandung Conference of 1945. Bandung is a city, an important city in Indonesia, where the non-aligned movement was born. And under its terms, we really look at it and look at the global south and the global north. The worst that can happen to you, diplomacy, it will be seen to be somebody's puppet in diplomacy. That is the worst that can happen. Because you have to stand together as a team. What does the African Union stand for? That's why a candidate, Raila Odinga, will bring in those memories of Pan-Africanism, of Africans being, remember, Mwalimu Nyerere actually accepted. He said he made a mistake because Nkrumah had wanted African Union immediately. Remember the famous President Nkrumah, the father of Pan-Africanism, along with others, that time, Abdel Nasser in Egypt, Mzee Kenyatta and others came on board, Nyerere. Had we realized African Union that time, we would be talking of United States of Africa. But a gentleman, again, Barack Obama, admitted they made a mistake in Libya. The just killing of brother leader who had this vision about can have a standing army in Africa and monetary union. He had done such a big thing in Libya. Today, Libya is a mess because of interference. Therefore, when countries of non-aligned movements stood together, say they uphold the principles of non-interference in internal affairs of member states, that's a cardinal principle in diplomacy. Leave alone the people quote the Vienna conference and what guides diplomatic conduct. Yeah. By the way, one of the things I did, and I'm so happy it happened, was when Kofi Annan, the late Kofi Annan, the UN Secretary General, visited Nairobi, because I pleaded with him. One time after some elections, there was a lady called Elizabeth Dostowell. She took over from an Egyptian, I forget the name now, as the head of UNEP. Remember, United Nations Environment Program. And I went out there to look for a hard hand. We ended up with Mr. Klaus Fischer. He was a foreign minister from Germany. We revived UNEP in Nairobi. But UNEP today has become a very important, it's the only UN headquarters in the third world. This is what is holding Nairobi. This is why sometimes you hear, so that we don't confuse the presence of the international community in Nairobi with our local politics, There are people suggesting, even under BBI that time, that Nairobi should stand alone as a capital, because it is holding the aspirations of the third world, the developing world. Remember, a concept of group of 77 plus China. That is what saved UNEP. I remember as foreign minister in Istanbul, Turkey, and the group of 77 plus China said, we do not agree with Elizabeth Dowell. Nairobi will continue to be the headquarters of UNEP. But Kofi Annan did the next important thing. He came. I remember I had been transferred from Foreign Affairs to Education. And because I had pleaded with him to come, he came and promoted UNEP now to be a UN headquarters. So, additional to New York, Geneva, which is the other one? No. There are 4 headquarters of the UN. New York, Geneva, Austria, and Nairobi, Vienna. So, exactly, that's how important this country is now in terms of diplomacy. So, Orwa, rating, I hope nobody comes to mess up with that status. And I hope Kenyans will know which people believe in that dream. So today, of course, Addis Ababa is the headquarters of our African Union. But Nairobi stands very tall. And because of the importance of climate change, COP, by the way, people talk of COP28. I was able, as a Minister for Environment, people forget, I hosted COP10 in Nairobi. So again, in terms of infrastructure and jurisprudence on climate change, Nairobi is a very important matter. But I hope Kenya Kwanza will not mess up with this positioning. They can take a few, but please don't take Nairobi Nairobi to be less than the headquarters of the UN. But if you are to give on a scale of 10, something out of 10, the score for Kenya Kwanza in diplomacy, 3 out of 10. You know, we have in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have very qualified Kenyans who are career civil servants. But regimes like Kenya Kwanza comes in and depose cronies to places where they have no idea about democracy. They end up causing embarrassment, and the image of the country continues to suffer. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to tell you, that is what is happening with Kenya Kwanza. No idea about diplomacy. A combination of law and democracy is what gives me that mien. Because there are things you cannot do in terms of diplomatic conduct. You cannot rise up here and call Kagame names. You allow a minister to abuse a head of state. That is going against the norms of diplomacy. Yeah, you remember recently, a cabinet minister attacked another country. You know, you must understand that nations coexist. Following the collapse of the Cold War, when the world had hoped then to reap what we call the peace dividend. You know, we wish the people of Haiti well, but they must be helped in a manner that is also humane, that first of all, we might recognize the solution to the Haiti crisis will come from Haiti people themselves. This has always been my mantra when we are dealing with the Somalis in their many communities, whether they are Darots, Awie, Digli, Mirifle, and all of them, the 0.5, we knew they had to come up with a solution to their problem. And today, as I said, Somalia has joined the East African community. So if you think you can go and impose order in Haiti, we can only be deluding ourselves. Where others have dared, we think we can send our young people there. We remain opposed on principle.